I'm afraid I'm going to get into trouble for sharing what I'm going to share with you, but you need to know this. We have a unique opportunity as humanity to decrease mental illnesses, chronic diseases like heart disease, lung disease, cancer, autoimmune disorders, digestive disorders, and addictions, and crime and violence, domestic violence, aggravated assaults. All of these are connected to one root cause, the chronic activation of our threat response system. This is the response system that you probably know as the fight flight reflex, the adrenaline rush, the thing that makes you breathe fast and really punch someone or get really restless. But that's not all. When experts talk to you about it, they usually say certain parts of the brain shuts down or get inhibited and hormones change, and that's about it. In reality, this is a survival mode that our whole organism shifts into. Our thinking changes. The part of our brain that is all about planning and socializing and taking care of others, thinking long term, abstract thinking, and really looking at the bigger picture of things. That's the part that gets shut down. And if we get even more threatened, even more fearful that we're going to get hurt or someone that we love will get hurt, then even our emotional brain shuts down and we become completely reflexive. Our brain, it develops kind of like a pancake style. First is the reptilian brain that we actually share with lizards and all the other reptiles. And this is a very reflexive part of our brain. It's focused on three responses to any sort of threat. You fight, run away, and you freeze. You roll up and pretend to be dead and hope that the threat goes away without hurting you and you can get away afterwards. And then the emotional brain is more like a dog or a cat where you're really thinking in the now and you're very impulsive and very at the hands of your emotions. And it's the third part of the brain that develops that is all about these more advanced human qualities that we all have. And we lose that. When the threat response system gets activated, we lose that. That's not all. This system, when it gets activated, sucks away our energy. Normally, we spend about 100 watts of energy to sit down and talk and think about things. But when this is activated, even if you're just sitting down and you're depressed and you might be even sleeping, you spend extreme amounts of energy, almost like a sprinter, like 2100 watts. And where does the body get that energy? Because we have limited amount of energy that the body can produce. Well, it shuts down certain organs like the frontal lobe of the brain that's all about the thinking and the human function, and it stops our organism's natural self-care process. Any moment we're losing cells and new cells are being developed to replace those. And all of our organs experience this. That keeps us young and alive and vivacious. Aging itself is about the increasing of the death of our cells and having problems with the birth of the new cells, or having the birth of the new cells, the regeneration process significantly slow down. So we start losing tissue. And we start to age. Elizabeth Blackburn in 2007 discovered that mothers who are taking care of their morbidly ill children, imagine what kind of stress that is, actually have their genetic expression change. Their telomeres shorten and they live on the average 20 years less than other mothers who don't have this kind of a stress in their lives. We are not the problem in the diseases that we call mental illness, chronic diseases, and addictions, and even violence. We're not born violent. We become like that because of the life experiences that we have, because of the environments that we live in, because our organism doesn't really differentiate between emotional threat and environmental physical threat. If you're living in an area with high air pollution, your body is going to experience a level of threat, and then these stressors, these toxicities, as I call them, actually add up. And so just having air pollution might not be a problem for your organism if you're taking care of yourself really well in all the other ways. But if you have that and a toxic coworker, a toxic spouse, and your children have problems, then that all adds up and your body starts to show all the impact of that threat response activation. I'm a psychotherapist, and over the last almost a decade now, I've been teaching the things that I'm sharing with you with professionals, physicians, doctors, nurses, and psychotherapists. But it's not enough. If we're going to create change, the demand for it needs to come from many voices, not just a few, not just from a few professions even. We all need to rise as humans living on this earth who want a better life for themselves and for their children. And we need to demand from our government, we need to demand from our culture makers, our artists, our authors, our entrepreneurs who create products that create new cultures, to become more aware of our neurobiology. Because the reason our threat response system is so activated so often is because we've developed lifestyles and cultures that don't take our neurobiology, our nervous system, and its needs into account. We expect ourselves to fit into the environments that we create, whereas it should be just the opposite. We should be creating environments and cultures that feel good for us, that make us feel better, that make us feel healthier. There are examples around the world, we call them blue zones, where people live longer and healthier and happier. And we scientists and other researchers go to these places, look at the food that they eat, look at the philosophies, that life philosophies that they have, and they share these in one-off ways. So it doesn't bring about lasting change for a mass group of people. But that's what we need. We need many voices to first learn what our neurobiology demands of us to be healthy and happy, and then to start implementing it in our communities, start sharing it with our communities so others also understand, also start to implement these things. And when we are able to do that, we're going to realize there's one thing that unites all humanity. Yes, we might have differences in our religions, in our nationalities, with our ethnicities. We're creating a lot of animosity among us too. We're creating false enemies out of nothing just to be able to fight with each other. And maybe we're going to stop all that because we're going to understand that what really matters to all of us is our health. From there, we have happiness, we have peace, calm, and we have productivity. And people who have what I call the love reflex active most of the time, that's just the opposite of the threat response. Activates our desire to tend to others, to befriend other human beings. We want to just connect and help others and understand others and communicate, talk, laugh, dance, enjoy life together. Whereas in the threat response, we want to be alone because everybody feels like a threat to us. And physiologically, the love reflex is about our organism taking care of itself, and researchers call the set of reflexes that get activated the rest and digest reflex. Because you want to calm down and take life easy and eat food and digest it in a proper way. When the threat response is activated, even our digestion changes, and the nutrients that we digest from food changes. A lot of people who experience stressful time periods in their lives, first, after the period is over, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the stress begins, they start experiencing symptoms of cold, uh, their allergies flare up, and they have sleep problems and they have digestion problems. These are usually the first functions that we start having problems with when we have this threat response activated. And the longer it gets activated, the more damage it creates. And if your threat response is activated for years, like those mothers that Elizabeth Blackburn explored, then even your genes change. And when your love reflex is activated for years, for a decade maybe, again, your gene expression changes. This is proven through studies as well. Meditation takes us to the love reflex activation. And just 10 minutes of meditation a day can activate your love reflex. And in the span of 5 to 10 years, you can see, you can feel the changes in you. Your emotionality is balanced, your thinking gets stronger. And if you were to look at your genes, you'd see that they've changed as well. But 10 years is a long time. Today, we have a lot of solutions, neurobiological solutions, that we in the field of trauma, traumatic stress, have been using for many years now that can really bring improvements in short periods of time. Now, this hasn't been implemented on a massive scale, but I can see it working. I've seen it work for individuals for years over years over years. And if we can get masses healed, we can change the world. And the thought of that excites me like nothing else. I literally come to tears when I think about it. So I've decided to take the risk because healthcare is a $10 trillion business per year. And there's a lot of people who want to keep status quo as it is. But if we want progress, someone needs to step up and push progress forward. It doesn't happen on its own. And so I'm taking that first step. I need you to take a step forward as well. All the entrepreneurs out there who want to create amazing products that will bring health and happiness to people in short amounts of time, uh, that are not just health products, by the way, that are consumer goods that can bring health as well. All the artists out there, all the environmentalists, all the physicians, people who want to heal addictions, chronic diseases, autoimmune diseases, mental illnesses, sign up and connect with me, stay connected, and get the information about how our the threat response gets activated, what can turn it off, and what kind of environments, what kind of cultures we need to avoid having it triggered over and over and over again. For example, homelessness is a huge trigger for the threat response activation. Even if you have a job, you're afraid of becoming homeless, and that fear shifts your organism, autonomic nervous system, into the threat mode, survival mode. And if we had a better response to homeless people, and I have ideas about how that could happen, that fear wouldn't be there, and you'd be free to choose what you want to do in life. Imagine not being afraid of poverty and homelessness. Would you still be doing the same work that you're doing right now, or would you be following your passions? A lot of people say that youth are having problems choosing their majors today. As a children's counselor, I can tell you, if you ask those kids what they want to learn over the next 1 to 3 years, they will tell that to you in a heartbeat. The problem is they know what they want to learn, but they know that that might not bring them the money, that the security they need to feel safe in life. And so the struggle is for betraying their instincts or not. And that is a difficult challenge to deal with. But we can remove that problem for our kids by simply taking good care of our homeless people, providing them with solutions that actually work. Toxic people, toxic bosses, toxic coworkers who don't really get any treatment for their problems. It's a health problem to be a toxic coworker. It means you're a bully. And being bully is tied to having a lot of experiences of fear, of threat in your childhood. And we have solutions for that. So instead of a punishment focused approach to justice, if we were to take a different approach, things might change. So the future is ours to build, and it's not going to take one profession to build it. It's going to take all of us to build it. And how to build it lies in our nervous system, in our neurobiology. Our organism is constantly giving us messages about what our neurobiology needs at any moment, and we call those messages sensations and emotions. And we have grown to numb out those messages, right? We take our emotions as the enemy. So we need to develop a different relationship with our senses, with our emotions as well, and with each other. So join me. Let's create a better world for our kids, for ourselves. Let's enjoy life. We have suffered enough. It's time to reduce all forms of suffering, anywhere we see them, and really make life great again with love.